Okay, so I always thought that the Academy Awards are the ultimate career launcher. That golden statue should guarantee decades of A-list roles, massive paychecks, and Hollywood immortality. But what happens when you win the biggest prize in entertainment and then nothing? Nobody cares. When that Oscar becomes the peak of your career, not the beginning. These are the stories of award winners who went from being Hollywood's golden child to nobodies faster than you can say. And the Oscar goes to Jean Dujardin, Best Actor for The Artist, 2011. Now, here's the thing. Jean Dujardin didn't just win Best Actor. He made history. He beat George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Gary Oldman with a black and white silent film called The Artist. This film somehow charmed audiences worldwide, and you know what? Dujardin's performance was the beating heart of that movie. And this alone should have launched him into megastardom. Here was a very charismatic French actor who proved he could carry a major Hollywood production without even speaking, let alone speaking in English. The studios? They should have been lining up with offers. He had that old Hollywood charm, the physical comedy skills, and now an Oscar to back it up. The irony, however, was that being the star of a silent film was pretty much all he could do. Because when Hollywood tried to figure out what to do with Dujardin next, they realized he had a thick French accent and very limited English. So the very thing that made him perfect for The Artist made him impossible to cast in anything else. His follow-up projects were small French films that American audiences never saw. He did The Monuments Men with George Clooney, but that was a tiny supporting role that barely registered. Meanwhile, his French career continued, but American audiences, they had already moved on, and his victory became a novelty rather than an actual career launcher. He simply decided to return to French cinema while Hollywood went back looking for the next shiny thing. Monique, Precious, 2009. Monique's Oscar win was supposed to be the ultimate redemption story. What made her Oscar win so special was that she went from comedy TV series and stand-up to serious, dramatic actress and was able to convincingly deliver a performance that was incredibly brutal and raw. And it was a shock for audiences that were used to seeing her in upbeat, happy, comedic roles. So here's the thing. Monique was one of the original queens of comedy for a whole generation. Her television show, The Parkers, ran for 5 seasons. She had multiple comedy specials, and she was selling out arenas with her stand-up act. So yeah, this wasn't some unknown getting discovered. This was an established entertainer making a move into acting, but with so much talent that they were able to convincingly pull off a role that should have been out of their range. Honestly, this is a lot harder than you'd think, and most actors don't have this type of range, let alone comedians. Anyway, her Oscar win looked like it was the start of a major acting career. And why wouldn't it? Monique had the range, a strong fan base, and now the ultimate validation from the Academy. So what happened after her triumphant Oscar win? Well, nothing. Monique's career didn't just stall after her Oscar win, it died completely. She struggled to get any major roles and publicly blamed Hollywood politics for freezing her out. So she claimed she was being punished for not playing the campaign game and for refusing to promote Precious for free at film festivals and award shows. But whether it was difficult behavior, unrealistic demands, or actual industry blacklisting, the result was the same. An Oscar winner who struggled to get hired for leading roles in major feature films. She went from being courted by every studio to being persona non grata almost overnight. The tragedy isn't just that Monique won an Oscar and then disappeared. It's that her win felt like vindication for her undeniable talents, only to become evidence that talent alone isn't enough to survive in Hollywood's political machine. Huy Quan, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, 2022. This one stings because it's happening right now. Huy Quan's Oscar win was the feel-good story of the year. After decades away from acting, the former child star from Indiana Jones and the Goonies returned with a performance that made grown adults cry. His emotional acceptance speech had everyone believing this was just the beginning. But here's what makes this story even more compelling. As an Asian American actor in the 80s and 90s, there simply weren't roles for him as he got older. He pivoted to working behind the camera as a stunt coordinator and assistant director, basically giving up on his acting dreams. But then, Everything Everywhere All at Once happened, and suddenly he was back. The Daniels wrote the role specifically for him, and his performance as the multiverse-hopping husband was nothing short of magical. At the Oscars, he thanked his mom and reminded everyone that dreams don't have expiration dates. After his Oscar win, Hollywood rushed to make him a star. He signed with a top agency, landed a role in Loki Season 2, and everyone was talking about his comeback story. Then he got his leading man blockbuster role with Love Hurts, an action comedy that was supposed to launch his second career phase. In fact, Love Hurts was marketed as his big solo comeback, with heavy promotion banking on his Oscar buzz. The promotional material also played up his action credentials from Indiana Jones. But the movie was a flop. According to Wikipedia, it only made $17.6 million against an $18 million budget. It has a brutal 5.3% IMDb score. So I guess audiences who loved him as a supporting role in Everything Everywhere All at Once weren't interested in seeing him carry an action comedy. From a tearful standing ovation to failed blockbuster, his triumphant return lasted exactly one movie before Hollywood moved on. And the industry that celebrated his comeback, already looking for the next feel-good story. Roberto Benigni, Life is Beautiful, 1997. Roberto Benigni's Oscar win will be remembered forever, but not for his performance. When his name was called for Best Actor, he climbed over seats, walked on chairbacks, and practically levitated to the stage in one of the most exuberant acceptance moments in Oscar history. Now, before that iconic moment, Benigni was already a massive star in Italy. He was their Charlie Chaplin, a physical comedian who could make audiences laugh without saying a word. Life is Beautiful was his passion project, a film that dared to find humor and hope in the Holocaust while never diminishing its horror. The movie was a phenomenon. It made over $230 million worldwide and earned Benigni not just the Best Actor win, but also a nomination for Best Director and a win for Best Foreign Language Film. This was supposed to be his crossover moment into American cinema, but here's the sad part. That celebration became more famous than anything Benigni ever did afterwards. His English language career never happened, and most of the American audience knew him more for his enthusiastic Oscar acceptance than his actual work. His joyful moment became a meme before memes existed, but unfortunately it didn't translate into a Hollywood career. He remained a curiosity, the guy who took over the Oscars, rather than a serious, dramatic actor. Tatum O'Neal, Paper Moon, 1973. Tatum O'Neal holds a record that will probably never be broken. The youngest competitive Oscar winner in history at just 10 years old. Her performance in Paper Moon opposite her real-life father Ryan O'Neal was genuinely impressive, because it was rare to see a child actor who could hold her own against seasoned professionals. Honestly, this should have been the beginning of an incredible career. Child actors who can actually act usually become major stars as adults, because studios love actors they can develop from a young age. And O'Neal had already proven she could handle complex material and deliver genuine emotion on screen. But Tatum O'Neal's transition to adult roles was a disaster. Her follow-up films like The Bad News Bears flopped. And as she aged out of child roles, Hollywood didn't know what to do with her. She made headlines more for her personal struggles and rocky relationship with her father than for any acting work. By the time she reached her 20s, the industry had completely moved on. The girl who beat seasoned actresses for an Oscar couldn't get cast in major roles. O'Neal's story is the ultimate example of peaking too early. She achieved the highest honor in acting before she was old enough to drive, and spent the rest of her career trying to live up to that moment, but never got close.